Welcome to Layer the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, let's discuss Twisted Sister's 1984 album, Stay Hungry. I've mentioned in some of my other videos that I'm of the age that when MTV was exploding, I was in high school. So I was affected by a lot of that stuff. And as much as I was into Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Black Sabbath and Thin Lizzy and Uriah Heep, I was also listening to a lot of the LA, quote, hair metal bands, although Twisted Sister is from New York. They often get lumped into the whole LA sound because they came out right around that time. And they were all over MTV with their I Want to Rock and We're Not Gonna Take It. So it was pretty hard to not know who Twisted Sister was, to not be aware of the band. And, they're one of these bands that I've talked about, bands that were unfairly labeled as hair metal. Well, Twisted Sister is one of those bands that I think brought, if they had just handled their career a little differently, I think that they could have survived the whole hair metal thing when it all went south, when it all went bad. Because to me, Twisted Sister was a really good hard rock slash heavy metal band. The first two Twisted Sister albums, Under the Blade and You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, to me are great. And unfortunately, I never bought into this image that the band had. The whole like, and I know people say, well, okay, Kiss, it's like inspired by that kind of thing. But to me, Kiss had, Gene Simmons was a demon, and Ace Frehley, and their thing was much cooler in my opinion. This was some sort of like football player in drag or something. I really don't know what they were going for. Uh, Credit to them, I guess, for trying to be different and maybe like a more metalized version of the band, the New York Dolls. But to me, they looked so cool. I mean, Dee Snider is a guy that he just has a cool look to him just when he's wearing jeans in a t-shirt. So I just don't think that they needed to do this. I think this was completely unnecessary, and in a lot of ways, I think it hurt them. I remember even in high school kind of staying away from them because of this and because of the videos. That's the other thing. The videos that they had, for as popular as it made them, it lumped them it lumped them into sort of the MTV kiddie vibe. Their videos were very comic book like, Wile E. Coyote, Warner Brothers, Elmer Fudd type of things. It was very comical and almost childlike. And even though it was fun, I think it really took away from what Twisted Sister was really about, which was a high energy, hard rock, heavy metal band. And if you look at the picture on the back here, I mean, to me, they look really, really cool. So they could have just had this look and it would have totally, I think it would have worked for them. And in a way, in the long run, I think it would have served them better. Also, if you see the You Can't Stop Rock and Roll video, you'll see them there's clips of them. I think, I can't remember, I haven't seen it in a while, but there's clips of them in dressed up. There's also clips of them in the alley where they're just in jeans, and man, they look so cool. If they had just stuck with that image. So, they're one of these bands that fell victim to the times. I guess they were a band that, for people who don't know their history, and I encourage people to read. Dee Snider has a biography that he put out. I don't remember the name of it, but it's excellent. He goes in depth about the struggle that Twisted Sister went through to get signed and to make it. Twisted Sister was not a flash in the pan band. They were a band that was slugging it out for like 10 years on the New Jersey kind of circuit there, New York, New Jersey. And they were hugely popular. Like, there's a story he tells about them selling out. I think it's like Coney Island or an amusement park somewhere, literally like tens of thousands of people. and they couldn't get signed. They eventually get signed. They have all kinds of, some bad career decisions, some bad luck, but this is the album for them that breaks them out. The dawn of MTV, they fit right into that, a very visual thing. All right, so the album, there's okay, the two songs that everybody knows from the record, "We're Not Gonna Take It" and "I Wanna Rock." If I never hear those songs again, I think that would be okay. If you take those two songs off this album, though, you are left with a pretty heavy, well written album. Now, Dee Snider is the primary songwriter of the band. You've got Dee Snider, who I think is a great vocalist. In fact, out of all these sort of mid '80s melodic metal vocalists, I think he's right up there as one of the best. And he's also a great songwriter for catchy hooks and stuff like that. Eddie Ojeda, JJ French on guitar. The guitar playing in Twisted Sister was always very simple. I think if maybe one of these guys was a little bit flashier, it could have made the songs a little more interesting. I don't know if that's also because Dee Snider did most of the songwriting, and supposedly Dee didn't play any instruments, so he would just sort of hum these riffs to them, and I don't know if that contributes to it, but the guitar playing is it could use a little bit more fire, a little bit more excitement, but it's still cool and it's melodic, and for the most part, it fits the songs. Mark Mendoza on bass. He's a cool bass player. He has some cool little lines here and there. And AJ Pero on drums. He's a really good drummer, kind of in the lines of, I think, of like Frankie Banali. Maybe not quite as standoutish as Frankie Banali was, but he's kind of there. He's got that sort of heavy hitting. His drums sound really good on this record. It should be mentioned the album is produced by Tom Werman, who was a popular producer of a lot of the hair LA melodic metal bands at that time. Dee has gone on to say that he did not like working with Tom and that Tom in some ways ruined the album. I don't really know what he means by that. The guitars are a little thin, but it fits in with what was happening at that time. Maybe it doesn't have quite the raw energy of You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, but it is a little bit more polished, a little bit cleaner to make it work on radio and MTV and stuff like that. I guess the guitars could maybe have a little bit more fullness to them, but it's a production that I think at that time was totally acceptable. And also, Dee claims that Tom Werman didn't want to put on the album like "We're Not Gonna Take It" and "I Wanna Rock" because he felt that they were like kiddie songs. And in some ways, I mean, you can see Dee's point, those songs turned into huge hits. Like "We're Not Gonna Take It" and "I Wanna Rock." You hear them in TV commercials at hockey stadium, football stadiums and stuff. So they turned into massive songs, but in some ways it trapped Twisted Sister. And there was a number of bands from that sort of mid '80s melodic metal thing that got trapped in their hit song, didn't completely represent what they were. Think Extreme, More Than Words, and think Mr. Big, I'm the One Who, To Be With You, right? I forget whatever the name of that song is. Those were songs that, although they were cool, I guess, and got them radio airplay, everybody thought that that's what these bands were about. And Extreme was a band that had way more different stuff than just More Than Words. They were way more than that. Same thing with Mr. Big. So Twisted Sister sort of gets trapped in the "We're Not Gonna Take It, I Wanna Rock" thing. But hey, they were massive hits at the time, and you still hear those songs on the radio and everywhere to this day. But if you take those two songs out and you go down this record, there's some really heavy, cool stuff on here. It's the title track, "Stay Hungry." It's a fast, upbeat kind of driver, really cool drumming on it. Dee's got this really powerful tenor voice. It's cool minor key riffing. "Burn in Hell" is another one, real kind of metal minor riffing thing. Hora Tieri, The Beginning, Captain Howdy, and Street Justice. I really love these two, especially Street Justice. I love like the chorus in that, the way it drops down, and the judge came back from a 3-drink lunch and then call for street justice, and the way that song ends with the crowd yelling and everything. I just think it's a really cool song. And Captain Howdy is the same way. It's got a really like almost Sabbathy style riff in it. Side two has Okay, I Want to Rock. If we put that aside, The Price, which is a personal favorite on this record. This is a great ballad along the lines of Alone Again by Dokken. This is before ballads got really over the top and really cheesy. This to me is just a really well written, melodic, catchy song, kind of about them slugging it out in the clubs and dreaming about becoming rock stars and the price you have to pay to do that. Don't Let Me Down, another upbeat, fast one with cool riffing and cool singing. The Beast is cool, and maybe one of my favorite, also one of my favorites on the record, SMF. Cool, heavy riff, like almost like an AC/DC style riff with like this sort of tribal, hard driving, grooving beat to it. So when you take out I Want to Rock and We're Not Gonna Take It, there's actually some really cool, heavy, and some dark minor key riffing and metal on here, and it's all really catchy. I mean, nothing clocks in much. I guess if you count the Captain Howdy and Street Justice, those are kind of like two songs, but together they clock in at like 7 minutes. Everything else is in the 3.5 to 4.5 minute range. So they're melodic, punchy type, verse chorus songs. But it's cool. It's good songwriting, and in some ways, I feel bad that Twisted Sister got trapped in this whole thing. I mean, they sort of brought it on themselves with the image and everything. Their next album would flop a big time, come out and play, and then that would really be it for Twisted Sister. But it's a shame if you look at this album and you can't stop rock and roll. I think there's a lot of really great, cool songs on those two records. So all right, there you go. Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry. Let me know what you guys think of this record. Put out of your mind those two songs that you probably never want to hear again. And what do you think of the rest of the record? Is Twisted Sister a band that deserves more than just getting lumped into with all these other 80s, hair metal bands and stuff? So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. And until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.